I'd like to start this episode by talking about one of the most original games ever created. Pac-Man, made in 1980, set the stage for games as we know it. I know that it wasn't the first game ever made or something like that, but it is still one of the most well-known games that has ever been created, and one of the most fun ones too. People put hundreds of dollars into these machines to play the game at arcades because it was so amazing. I wasn't around to play this at the time it came out, but I still have played it a lot. It provides more entertainment than many AAA games, and it's so simple. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. My point is that this game was one of the trailblazer games, which, if never created, would mean a lot less great games. Of course, this video isn't about the original Pac-Man. If it were, this would be over in just about a minute. Good game. Play it. Moving on. However, there's something special that I'm very familiar with that I'd love to talk about today. One of my absolute favorite games that I immediately link with my childhood. On February 24th, 2002, yeah, a lot of games that I love are from around that time, Pac-Man World 2 came out. This game, like some of the other ones I've reviewed, is one of the first games I've ever played. I know, crazy, right? If you've never played this game, you'll see why I'm surprised that this was something I played and beat just as a wee child. It is my extreme pleasure to bring you Pac-Man World 2. Hey, did you hear? The new Pac-Man game is coming out. Oh, really? I can't wait to see it. Let's play it right now, because apparently it came out while we were speaking. Hey, that doesn't look like Pac-Man. Pac-Man World 2 has an interesting story. So weird that it just fits. Kinda like Mad Max. Although, of course, not so dystopian. Alright, here we go. The four ghosts, Blinky, Inky, Pinky, and Clyde, one of these things is not like the others, sneak into Pac-Land during the night and steal the 5 golden fruits that are hanging from the tree in the center of Pac-Land. As soon as they take these fruits, Spooky is freed from the tree and recruits the ghosts to help wreak havoc on Pac-Land. Morning comes and Professor Pac, yes, that is his real name, don't worry, it gets much worse, comes to tell Pac-Man the news. He explains the history of the golden fruit, which is that they were created by the great wizard Pac. Wow, everyone seems to have Pac in their name, or in many cases, as their actual whole name, and then used somehow by the brave knight Sir Pac-a-Lot, there it is again, to defeat Spooky and imprison him under the tree. What a great prison, I don't understand how anything went wrong there. Pac-Man then has to go through all the different lands to find the golden fruits, each one held by a different ghost. First, Pac-Man fights Blinky and his killer frog in the forest, getting the golden cherry. Then he fights Inky and his Blade-O-Matic in the forest, getting the golden strawberry. Next, he fights Pinky's blower, and Dead Serious, that's what it's called, in the mountainous region and gets the golden apple. He then fights Clyde's machine, pretty simple, in a caldera and receives the golden pear. The fifth and final fruit is gotten underwater by fighting the mega whale piloted by all 4 ghosts. This awards the golden banana. Pac-Man travels on some more and eventually defeats the Wormwood by solving his puzzles. What a way to go. And finally faces off against Spooky, defeating him once and for all and imprisoning him once again under the tree. And then the Pac people celebrate, and Pac-Man's dog chases the ghost. Oh no, you killed them. Oh no! Wow, that was a lot. Before we begin, I would like to talk about how much I really loved this game when I was young. I'm not going to go off on a big story about how I played every hour of every day until my eyes started to bleed, but I am going to show proof of my love for it. Pac-Man and the Ghosties. Yup, this is completely real and was written by me before I could even write, as seen with a few of these. For the most part, I drew the pictures and dictated how I wanted them to be described as. I'd like to read an excerpt to you now. This is a Pac-Man maze. The Pac-Man maze is hard because sometimes you fall off the edge and you have to start at the checkpoint. If you fall off the edge, you'll always have to start at the beginning because there are no checkpoints. Pure poetry. Why is everything is ghosties? I have an upside down version of everything. Yes, when I was younger, I played this game more than Pikmin 2, which is my absolute favorite game of all time. That's probably because Pikmin 2 is too complicated for me because of its strategy game feel. That doesn't mean I was wrong in loving this game. Now that I've explained it all, let's get to the good and bad. The good. Where to start? I'll just start with the basics. The bare basics. The levels of this game have awesome names. Butane Pain, Blade Mountain, Volcanic Panic, Scuba Dooba, and of course my favorite, Magma Opus. These names are incredibly unique and really do give quite a good view into what kind of level you'll be playing. Butane Pain, you get burned by fire from burners on the trees. Blade Mountain, you ride on blades down a mountain. You get the point. With these levels also comes some amazing music. I can't think of a song in this game that I actually dislike. There are many songs I like more than others, but I never heard a song I actually didn't enjoy listening to. Magma Opus isn't only my favorite level for the level itself, the cool designs, the awesome slide at the end, and the fact that I just love lava levels, but also because the music is absolutely amazing. It's actually the music that's playing in the background right now. And, on the contrary, the music for levels like the bare basics is so calming it fits the simple atmosphere very well. Along with the names and the music in each level, the levels themselves are really fun. The game really takes the meaning of uniqueness to a whole new level. Every level is a new experience, and I really mean that. You never walk into one level and feel deja vu from the last level. Not to mention, every once in a while a new mechanic is involved. Shrink pellets, power pellets, metal suits, slides, platforms that only move with rev rolling, wall jumping, piloting a miniature submarine, and others are always keeping the game interesting. Bosses have kind of a mixed opinion from me. I like them more than I dislike them, but I'll explain what I dislike about them in a little bit. For now, let's talk about what they did right. First of all, I love Blinky's Killer Frog. It's simple, it's quick, but it's very unique. We all saw last video how much I love uniqueness. Completely different from anything I've ever played. Such unique, extremely unique, and yet most unique and very unique. Unique, one of a kind. The final boss is also pretty cool, although way too easy for the final boss. It's not the easiest fight of the game, but it's pretty much in the middle. But once again, the music is great and the atmosphere is amazing, especially with Pac-Man becoming golden from the fruits. I also love the story in this game. I know I spent way more time than I needed to voicing in my stupid comments with the story, but I really do love it. The cutscenes are awesome, first of all. I can't show the whole thing because it would take a really long time, but it is a wonderful start to the game. It really sets the mood. I love Spooky's voice, by the way. And Professor Pac.
Pac-Man!
There are some other extra things in the game that I love as well, like the tokens. These are in every level and show up in almost any area that could be considered a secret. Their only reward is a museum where you can play a little bit of the old Pac-Man games, but that's not too bad of a reward. They're a fun reward to get for finding secrets, and add a ton of replayability if you're into that sort of thing. I honestly could go on and on and on about how much I love this game. However, I think it's time to start talking about where the game comes short. The bad. I don't want to sound like one of those job interview answers where my response would be something like, the game's problem is that it's too great. But I will say that my main complaint about this game is that it's too short. I love nearly every moment of it, with the exception to Clyde and the Caldera, but then the game very quickly takes it away by ending. I'm sure that if the game lasted too much longer, it would end up with the Billy Hatcher problem where it gets really annoying. But to put it in perspective, it took me just a little bit over 2 hours to complete the game, or really just one evening. Now granted, I know the game well and I've played it many times, but as you'll see, I had so much trouble on Clyde and the Caldera that it probably took an extra 15 minutes just to complete, and that's only from that one level and not adding in the other ones. Speaking of Clyde and the Caldera, there's a catastrophe that I would like to use to explain all my other problems with this game. First off, unlike the other fights, you can't rev roll into him to damage him. You have to bounce on his glass, which also requires an extremely lucky placement. You can get multiple hits on the glass in one go usually, but for some reason towards the end it's almost impossible to get that second hit. Also, in some cases, he just blocks the way for the player to be able to rev roll to a safe platform and then runs across the platform, knocking the player off. And that brings me to my next point. Rev rolling was something that was far from being perfected, and for some reason they decided to have it be the main mechanic of these fights, going back and forth between platforms. In some cases this works fine, but in here the ramps are too small and sometimes don't register you trying to launch yourself. I got many deaths here because of this, as you can easily see. Clyde also perpetuates my point that the bosses in this game are half good and half bad. Like I said, Blinky's Killer Frog was very fun, and Spooky was a great experience, albeit a little easy. However, Inky, Pinky, and Clyde, sounds like a band name or something, are all the exact same fight with some slight exceptions. Of course, they got harder and harder, but they're the same fight with just slightly new mechanics each time. It's a cool fight, but it does get old after the third time, and especially if that third time is Clyde and the Caldera. The Mega Whale fight is another cool idea, but it's easily forgettable. I know, hard to think about this gigantic boss being forgettable, but really all I can remember in it is it being laughably easy. Finally, I have some issues with the camera in this game. When I started out playing this to record it, I was praising the camera for it being better than most games, but then it just seemed to stop working nearly as well. It may be that the previous levels were just much simpler and didn't require too much camera work, but for some levels it just didn't work. It's not as bad as in some other games like Sonic Adventure 2, where it just decides to hover a couple thousand miles above the player's location, but it still isn't too great. Although, considering this game was an early 2002 game, it works quite well. There's one point I want to get across by this video. This game is a classic, and I definitely mean that in every good way possible. I always try to balance out my good and bad in these videos, but it usually just works out. In this case, it was pretty difficult though. I had to dig really deep to find the problems with this game. Some of them were pretty obvious. It's not a perfect game, but I definitely have much more positive memories about this game than negative memories. I seriously would recommend this game to anyone that wants a fun, easy to learn, and challenging game. I mean, what more do I have to say? I love this game and would put it in my top 5 games that I've ever played. So, if you get the chance, take the opportunity to play this game. You won't regret it. Well, those are my thoughts on Pac-Man 2. I'd like to know what you guys think about the game. Leave a comment about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.